You don't have to be a father of a little girl to care about the women who were exploited in this case. Everyone is sickened by it. I am a father of a little girl, and my promise to the victims is I will do everything along with my colleagues on the Democratic side to seek justice in this case.
Several months later.
A lot has been said about me today through anonymous allegations, and I thought it was important that you see and hear from me directly. These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened, and I will fight them with everything that I have. They also come on the eve of an election where I have been the frontrunner candidate for governor in California. I do not suggest to you in any way that I'm perfect or that I'm a saint. I have certainly made mistakes in judgment in my past, but those mistakes are between me and my wife. And to her, I apologize deeply for putting her in this position. I also apologize to you if in any way you have doubted your support for me.
He's calling for an investigation and intends to do one. Is that relative to the April 2024 allegation of rape, sexual assault? Did that happen in New York? Do we know where it took place? Because we're wondering, why would the Manhattan DA become involved?
We don't have any indication of whether it was the 2019 incident or the 2024 incident that the Manhattan DA is looking into. They just simply said that they have an investigation into this and urged anyone who may have information to send along information.
So we got to talk about this because this story just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse for Eric Swalwell, aka Eric Swallows Well, just wait until you hear what's coming out now. Because this is turning into a full-blown political implosion happening in real time. And it's exposing not just him, but the entire way the Democrat machine operates behind the scenes. And honestly, this might be one of the most revealing political scandals we've seen in a long time, especially considering who this guy is and the role he's played over the last few years. Because remember, this is the same Eric Swalwell who positioned himself as some kind of moral authority, some kind of crusader, especially when it came to issues like Epstein and allegations against political opponents, particularly Donald Trump, right? This is one of those guys who had no problem getting on TV, pointing fingers, pushing narratives, acting like he was standing up for women and justice and all of that. And now the tables have completely turned, because now he's the one at the center of multiple allegations, multiple investigations, and a growing pile of controversy that is threatening not just his campaign for governor in California, but potentially his entire political career. And maybe even more than that. And the timing of all of this is not a coincidence, because right now in the California governor's race is shaping up in a way that Democrats do not like. You got a crowded field, you got vote splitting, and when you split the vote like that, especially in the primary system, it opens the door for a Republican to slide through with a strong base. And suddenly what should be a safe blue state becomes competitive. And Democrats cannot afford that. So what do when one of their own has become a liability? When one of their own refuses to step aside, when one of their own threatens the outcome they want? Well, you're watching it happen right now in real time. Because all of a sudden, all these allegations, all these reports, all this opposition research starts dropping like a coordinated hit. And now even outlets like CNN are jumping in, interviewing alleged victims, amplifying the story, pushing into the mainstream. And the question you have to ask yourself is not just what did Swalwell do, but why is all of this coming out right now? Because timing in politics is everything. And this looks a whole lot like a political takedown from within his own party. And we're going to break all of that down. We're going to talk about the allegations, the investigation, the hypocrisy, and what this means for the bigger picture, because there's a lot going on here that people are not connecting yet. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and check this out.
I decided to ask him to meet me for a drink. And I did this because I was so far removed from what had happened in 2019. I felt safe because I was established. I had a partner. I felt more secure that I could have a strictly professional relationship with this person. After that bar closed, we went to another I went to the bathroom and I don't remember anything after that.
You don't remember anything?
I remember the next day, I can see flashes of that evening of him on top of me pushing him off, him grabbing me. It was a lot more aggressive. It was aggressive.
Did you say no?
Yes, I said no. In my flash that I can recall, I was pushing him off of me saying no.
And what did he do?
He didn't stop.
He didn't stop. And you woke up the next morning?
I woke up the next morning naked, alone in his hotel room. I, for a moment, didn't even know I was in his hotel room. That's how intoxicated I was. And I called my mom, the only person I could think that could help me.
And we were able to corroborate that by speaking with friends and family she confided in, reviewing photos and screenshots of contemporaneous text messages. And we also reviewed a message from her medical provider the week after she received the pregnancy and STD tests, calling her a, quote, survivor.
Now, look, you heard the allegations, you saw what's being reported, and I'm going to be straight out with you. I'm not a fan of Eric Swalwell. I think this is a guy who has spent years pushing narratives, attacking political opponents, and acting like he's morally superior. So, yeah, there's a level of irony that is absolutely undeniable. It is what it is. But at the same time, I'm also not one of those people who just blindly accepts every single allegation without asking questions. Because at the end of the day, innocent till proven guilty, right? That's why I'm saying alleged. All of this is alleged for now. Because we've seen how these situations can play out, right? We've seen accusations come out, we've seen stories change, we've seen narratives get pushed for political reasons. So naturally, yeah, there's some skepticism there. I'm very skeptical. Especially when you hear stories involving alcohol, unclear memory, and situations where even the accuser admits uncertainty about certain details. That's just being honest. But here's where it gets interesting, because the same people who told us for years that we have to believe all women, the same political ideology that Swalwell himself has supported and advocated, the same standard that Democrats have tried to impose on everyone else. Well, now that that standard is being applied to him. And suddenly the conversation gets a lot more complicated, because if you're going to live by that rule, if you're going to push that standard, then you don't get to pick and choose when it applies. So by their own logic, by their own framework, by their own rhetoric, we're supposed to take these allegations at face value. And that puts Swalwell in a very, very bad position, especially when you consider that this is not just one accusation. This is multiple women coming forward with different claims, ranging from alleged assault to inappropriate conduct to sending explicit images. And now you got the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Alvin Bragg's office, by the way, opening an investigation into at least one of these claims, which allegedly took place in New York in 2024, involving a former staffer who says she was heavily intoxicated and tried to refuse him. And again, this is serious stuff. This is not just political gossip. This is the kind of thing that can end careers and potentially lead to criminal consequences. And when you add in the fact that other women are making separate claims, including unwanted advances and explicit messages, it paints a picture of a pattern of a behavior that is becoming harder and harder for Democrats to ignore, which is why you're now seeing them distance themselves. You are seeing endorsements quietly disappear, and you are seeing people who once supported him suddenly go silent or back away, because they understand the political liability here. They understand that this is not sustainable, and they know that if he stays in the race, he could drag down the entire party's chances in California.
A growing chorus of Democrats are denouncing Congressman Eric Swalwell this weekend after CNN reported that 4 women made accusations of sexual misconduct against him. Those accusations range from inappropriate messages and pictures to unwanted kissing and touching, and in one case, rape. Here's Swalwell's response.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened, and I will fight them with everything that I have. I have certainly made mistakes in judgment in my past, but those mistakes are between me and my wife. And to her, I apologize deeply for putting her in this position.
And my panel is here now, including a sitting Democratic Congressman, Eugene Vindman. What do you think should happen this week? Should the congressman resign? And if not, would you vote to expel him?
Yeah, we need to be crystal clear on this. The accusations are absolutely heinous, and his admissions betraying his family are deplorable. So Eric Swalwell needs to resign. He needs to drop out of the race. And we have grown far too accustomed to having our senior leaders, our elected officials, fall far below what we expect their behavior to be morally, ethically. And so whether you're the president of the United States, whether you're a representative, we should not tolerate this behavior, and Representative Swalwell needs to go.
And just to be clear, because he's also running for California governor, you're saying that he should not only drop out of that race, but he should resign his seat in Congress?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the leadership didn't quite go that far of your party in the House. Here's what they said. Following the incredibly disturbing sexual assault accusations against Congressman Eric Swalwell, we call for a swift investigation into these incidents and for the congressman to immediately end his campaign to be California's next governor. This is unacceptable of anyone, certainly not an elected official, and must be taken seriously.
Yeah, the first thing, as the congressman said a minute ago, is you think about the family, you think about the victims, and you got to be responsible and respectful to them as a Democratic caucus. There are things you can do short of resignation, because the question is, should someone be punished to get the punishment for something they haven't been convicted of? But you can take him off of committees. You can make sure that he's not running. You can, any funding that you were giving from any organizations, take that away. The people who are, I think, leading his campaign organization are all stepping down. And then the congressman has to decide whether or not he needs to be focused on his family and his reputation and his legal case. And that probably means that he can't do that and represent.
Yeah, family, and this is a serious matter. My heart goes out to the family members and the women who came forward with these allegations, for being brave. If these allegations comes out to be true, with the facts and everything coming into fruition as investigations are taking place. And at the end of the day, you cannot have an individual taking public office who cannot have self-discipline to be putting themselves on individuals with doing a heinous such act that could have been prevented through self-control. And that's a big characteristic when it comes to containing yourself as a public official, because you're representing all your constituents. And just imagine not having self-control this way by putting yourself on individuals due to your own desires, and basically doing such traumatic and such selfish and cruel act. Just imagine just an individual such as a public official that don't have self-discipline doing these acts have American taxpayer monies at their hands and everything else, right? You cannot put more power into the hands of a fool. It just leads to more destruction, is my point. And that brings us to the bigger picture here, the bigger point. Because let's be real, this is not just about accountability. If Democrats were truly consistent about their standards, if they really believed everything they've been saying over the last several years about misconduct and abuse and holding people accountable, then this would be immediate. This would be decisive. This would be, he's out, he's done, he's expelled, no questions asked. But that's not what you're seeing. What you're seeing instead is a slow, calculated response, pressure behind the scenes, and efforts to get him to drop out the governor's race quietly so they can consolidate the vote and move forward without making too much noise. Because the last thing they want is a drawn-out scandal that exposes internal divisions and damages their chances in a critical election. And that's why I'm saying this is bigger than just Swalwell. This is about how the system works. And this is about how power is protected and managed. And when someone becomes a problem, even if they are part of your own team, they get dealt with one way or another. In the way this is unfolding, the video with video leaks, and this is the video leak that I'm talking about, family, right here on the screen. It happened to come out. It's surfacing all through the internet. I don't know who released it. I just happened to come across it through X, formerly known as Twitter. And this is the clip, right? This is the clip of him putting himself onto the woman and doing such act. And that's what happened to be, right? And when you look at this, the video leaks, additional allegations, stories about his personal life, a coordinated effort. And when you see that, right, the coordinated effort to push him out, and then you add in these other reports, like the video of him allegedly with a woman who is not his wife that I just showed you, potentially a prostitute, questions about his behavior, his lifestyle, the kind of risk he's taken, it starts to paint a picture of someone who is reckless, someone who is not exercising judgment, and someone, and again, in politics, that is the kind of vulnerability that gets exploited, because once people know you have weaknesses, once they know you have skeletons in the closet, those things can and will be used against you. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And on top of that, you got more reports surfacing about his conduct, his interactions, and just an overall pattern that suggests this isn't some one-off situation. This is someone who has been operating recklessly for a while now, and finally is finally catching up to him in the worst way possible. And then on top of all that, you got this separate but equal damaging allegation involving immigration and employment law here. As you guys see from New York Times, it says Eric Swalwell paid a legal Brazilian live-in nanny under the table with campaign funds. Complaint alleges, right? And when you see this, where he's accused of keeping an illegal live-in nanny, allegedly paying her under the table with campaign funds, and even lying to federal authorities to keep her in the country, this is where the hypocrisy really hits another level, because this is a party that constantly talks about immigration, constantly pushes policies around enforcement and legality. And yet here you have a prominent Democrat allegedly violating those very laws for personal convenience. And not just that, but potentially using campaign funds to do it, which opens up a whole other set of legal and ethical questions. And when you look at the details being reported, payments allegedly made over multiple years, efforts to sponsor a green card after work authorization expired, and a continued close relationship despite legal issues, it raises serious concerns about judgment and accountability and abuse of power. And again, when you combine that with everything that was just misconduct allegation, the misconduct allegations, the investigation of political timing, it becomes very clear that this situation is spiraling out of control very quickly. And at this point, it's not really a question of whether Swalwell is going to drop out. It's a question of when and how, because the pressure is only going to increase from here. And this is where we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, right? But before we look at that, let's read a little bit of this article before I speak on the bigger picture. Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell, a frontrunner in the California governor's race, has been accused of violating immigration and employment law to keep his illegal live-in Brazilian nanny in the country, according to a pair of recently filed complaints. When his South American babysitter's temporary work organization was about to expire in 2022, sorry, family, I got tongue-tied. He and wife Brittany Swalwell lied to the feds to keep Amanda Barbosa working for them. A new complaint filed Tuesday with the Department of Labor claimed. Another complaint filed to the Department of Homeland Security in February and previously unreported accuses Swalwell of paying the nanny under the table with campaign funds for a period of 2 years when she didn't hold the valid work organization. And this is the woman, the live-in nanny, right? Barbosa appears in numerous social media posts with Swalwell family throughout 2023 and 2024, indicating continued close association and ongoing child care responsibilities, despite the absence of known lawful work organization. The complaint of the Department of Homeland Security, dated February 16, alleged, right? The embedded California gubernatorial hopeful first hired Barbosa, 33, in the fall of 2021 to look after his 3 children. This is his family. This is Eric Swalwell and his wife in the picture right here. Barbosa had come to the U.S. from Rio de Janeiro in January 2021 on a AU pair visa. She was paid $3,914 in campaign funds that year, according to an analysis of Federal Election Commission data by the Post. She continued working for the Golden State politician as a live-in nanny the next year, receiving $46,930 in campaign funds in 2022. FEC records show when her AU pair visa coming to an end in December 2022, Swalwell began the process of sponsoring her for a green card, according to a permanent labor certification applied, reviewed by the Post. While that drawn-out process played out, she enrolled at community college, according to her LinkedIn, and under student visa rules wasn't allowed to work off campus. But that doesn't appear to have stopped Swalwell, whose other international fumbles have included the infamous Fang Fang affair. It's the first time I'm hearing about the Fang Fang affair. Social media posts from her since deleted Facebook account show Barroso caring for the kids at a variety of family events over the next 2 years, even being so bold as posting photos in the annual White House picnic in 2023 and 2024, where she's holding up the youngest child, then two, in her arms while sporting a blue sundress. And another snap on Halloween 2024, she's taking the kids trick-or-treating while wearing a Brazil soccer shirt. Her LinkedIn page also deleted since the allegations says she worked as a private child care provider continuously from 2021 to present, according to a screenshot included in the complaints. Man. So you're seeing that, right? A system that is willing to do whatever it takes to maintain power, even if that means tearing down one of its own. And that's something people need to understand, right? That's the bigger picture. It's not just one politician in trouble. And that's something people need to understand, especially in states like California, New York, Illinois, these deep blue strongholds where the real competition is not between Republicans and Democrats, it's within the Democrat Party itself. And that's where things get really cutthroat, because when the stakes are that high, when control of the state is on the line, when national implications are in play, there are no friends, there are no loyalties, there is only power. And if you become an obstacle to that, you will be removed. And that's what this looks like. This looks like opposition research being weaponized at the perfect moment to take out a candidate who refuses to step aside. And again, if the allegations are true, then yes, he absolutely deserves to be held accountable. No question about it. But at the same time, you cannot ignore the political dynamics at play here. You cannot ignore the timing. You cannot ignore the coordination, because this is how the game is played. And it's important for people to see that clearly. At the end of the day, this situation highlights two things. Number one, the consequences of living recklessly as a public figure, because eventually everything comes out. And number two, the reality of political power, especially within the Democrat Party, where maintaining control takes priority over everything else, including protecting our own. And right now, Eric Swalwell is learning the hard way, because whether he drops out or not, whether he fights this or not, the damage is already done. The narrative is set and the machine is moving on. So we'll see how it plays out from here. We'll see if more information comes out. We'll see if he actually faces legal consequences. But one thing is clear, this is far from over, and it's definitely something people should be paying attention to. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is accountability? Do you think this is a political takedown, or do you think it's both? Make sure you like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Catch you in the next one, family. Peace.